And joining us from Ekiti, he's an election observer from the Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, Dr. Gabriel NWAMBU. Dr. NWAMBU, it's good to have you join us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
All right.
Dr. NWAMBU, thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast once again. Of course, political campaigns have ended and we cannot talk about parties or personalities at this point during the course of our conversation on air. But for an off-season election, like we know what we are seeing play out in Ekiti State, and for your role as an election observer, what is your concern? What's your interest as well in Ekiti State ahead of Saturday's polls?
Thank you so much. First of all, I must state that this is one of the elections in Nigeria that is classified as off-season elections. And basically, there have been innovations that have been entrenched in the electoral process. As you know, election is not an event. Election is a process. It starts from once INEC rolls out the timetable for any particular elections. And then, as it concerns Ekiti State, this is the first time in the history of Nigeria that Ekiti State is going to use the BVAS technology as introduced by INEC. It's against the card reader machine. So we expect to see how the people would adapt, positively with the latest innovations, especially as it affects the latest amendment of the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, and then the introduction of the BVAS technology. So generally, we expect a positive response. We expect a more coordinated election process. Yesterday, we observed the distribution of sensitive materials from the INEC headquarters here in Ado Ekiti down to the 16 local government areas across the state. And then from the local government headquarters is going to trickle down to the RAC centers. And then from the RAC centers, tomorrow morning is going to move to the polling units directly. So the BVAS technology is what is going to be used for this election. And then the usual rigging and manipulations of election is going to be at the barest minimum. We expect this as a template that is going to govern this election. But we have a phobia as the head of mission for an observer group. We have a phobia. The phobia we have is that this election is most likely going to witness a lot of vote buying. The vote buying, that is so much cash. We believe that so much cash will be deployed, and then the voters, the electorate, would be largely induced, in this particular election. Because as much as INEC has gone to block all the loopholes, all the lacunas you have during elections, politicians are being caged to a corner. And then the most option, or the most probable option that is left to them would be vote buying. And then we are trying to also encourage the electorates here in Ekiti State to desist, largely from vote buying, because that would mean selling or mortgaging their conscience.
What evidence do you have with regard to that in terms of vote buying? Because you seem to be very confident about that. Have you seen some episodes that inspires this concern? Now,
you see, the Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness did conduct a pilot and opinion poll survey. We did the opinion poll survey to look at across the political divide, to look at the candidates and the personalities, and then to make proper projections based on the figures gathered on the probable winner of that election. We have that in our closet now, and we know the most likely political party that would win the election. But for the purposes of the sanctity of the elections, we might not be able to make those projections known right now because of the latest laws that govern election processes. But I tell you something, even the driver who brought me to the studio told me, who is from Ekiti State, he told me that he might not be able to work tomorrow. He even said that there would be massive vote buying that is going to sell his own votes, to be able to make an additional sum of money, that he is looking at 15,000 naira per vote. So he is saying that he would, first of all, exercise his franchise via vote selling, and then before he will come to do his normal job as a driver. So you see, what I'm saying is not out of place. I have an evidence right now on a possible situation of vote buying.
Now, we have been looking over the years, we've been discussing the issue of the heavy presence of security agencies for elections to ensure that they maintain peace. And at this point, a lot of people would think that, or would imagine that we should have gotten used to election not being a do or die affair, so it wouldn't warrant the idea or the need to deploy the heavy security for elections anymore. But for the Ekiti election, we have over 17,300 police officers, as well as 9,000 civil defense and other security agents to Ekiti State. That's a massive one. But talk to us regarding the impact of this on the peace of through the election.
Well, thank you so much. It is evident in the body politic of Nigeria right now that the massive deployment of security operatives, security agents, is no longer a threat as far as election and electioneering in Nigeria is concerned. Recall also that a contiguous state to Ekiti State, about a fortnight ago, armed men invaded a church and then massacred about 50 persons with close to 70 persons in the hospital. The security, the primary purpose of any government is to protect life and property as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Therefore, if over 17,000 policemen, 9,000 civil defense operatives is being deployed, the target really is not to intimidate the electorate, but to ensure that Nigerian citizens are able to come out boldly to exercise their franchise as a part of their duties as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, devoid of intimidation, devoid of molestation, with the assurance of not being attacked or killed by bandits or terrorists, as the case may be. So the deployment or massive deployment of security agencies, Nigerians are used to it right now because that does not work against the citizens. It is actually intended in good faith. It is aimed at ensuring that the life and property of citizens of Nigeria is properly protected.
Looking at your constituency now, where you're operating as regarding the Saturday process of voting, what trends are you seeing in Ekiti at the moment? Not forgetting that there's been a history of violence associated with elections in Ekiti State. What's it looking like now for you?
No, right now, in Edo, which is the capital of Ekiti State, we are just witnessing a decrease, massive decrease in the population of people. And we do not have, this morning we did not see or witness the usual traffic jams in the checkpoints conducted by the military in several strategic positions. So a lot of people have digressed. A lot of people have moved, to their respective local government areas where they are expected to exercise their franchise tomorrow. So the population here has reduced. And then there is a tension around, because the suspension is as a result of politicians majorly not being sure. As far as Ekiti State is concerned, there are 3 dominant political parties here in Ekiti State, who are largely to secure the bulk votes that are going to be cast tomorrow. These 3 political parties are the SDP, the APC, and then the PDP. Then we classify the other political parties that also fielded candidates as others. So, but these 3 main dominant political parties have shown presence across the 16 local government areas, and we are aware that the major vote casts that we are going to witness tomorrow will be majorly shared amongst these 3 political parties.
You get a sense that the elections are over-militarized.
Come again, please.
Do you get a sense that the elections are over-militarized?
No, I did not say that the elections are over-militarized. What I'm saying is that the presence of military, the 17,000 policemen and 9,000 civil defense officers that have been deployed in Ekiti State is in tandem with the mandate as enshrined in Section 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that is that the primary purpose of government is to protect the lives and property of its citizens. So if government cannot protect the people, it becomes a failed government. So what the government of Nigeria is doing in real terms is to ensure that the lives and property of citizens of Ekiti State is devoid of molestation, is devoid of arbitrary killings everywhere, is devoid of intimidation. The essence, essentially, is that citizens should be able to go and exercise their franchise tomorrow, with some sense of freedom in terms of nobody is going to come to molest them. So I don't think the election, the process of election is militarized. It's just in tandem with the provisions of the Constitution, as no reasonable government would fold its arms and watch its citizens being killed and molested arbitrarily. So what is done, the deployment so far, is in good faith.
All right, Dr. Nwambu, just 2 days ago, all the parties or candidates had to sign a peace accord. And we talked about this, becoming a part and parcel of our election process right now. What impact is that having from your assessment on the way, the conduct, and the peaceful outcome of the election?
Okay, thank you so much. The peace accord has gradually become part of the processes of election since 2015, when Goodluck Jonathan and some other major, the incumbent president Muhammadu Buhari and other candidates in 2015 general election were made to sign the peace accord because of the level of violence that was expected in that election. So gradually it's tilted down even to the state and off-season elections. But we are saying essentially that the problem we have witnessed is some politicians, inability of some politicians to play by the stipulated rules and laws that govern election and electionary processes in Nigeria. But all the same, with the peace accord, it will go a long way to ensuring that politicians talk to their wards, their members, to keep away from violence. But that's the level of compliance really is what we cannot vouch for, because we still find some politicians still engaging in intimidation and harassment of some citizens, which contradicts very clearly the treaty, the signing of the peace accord.
So what's the way out? I mean, okay, so it's not just the Electoral Act. Generally, our laws frown against acts of violence and other illegalities, especially during elections. So if the peace accord and other instruments say, if you, as a politician or a party, now if you're found to have instigated an act of violence, you will be prosecuted, deterrent or punishment will be meted out on you. Why are we not seeing that, being displayed? So what is the way out for you as an advocate?
Now, as the head of mission for election observation for the Center for Credible Leadership, we are here also to take holistic inventory on politicians who sponsor, aid, abet, or in one way or the other encourage election or election-related violence. The idea is that we are going to collect this as in our report that we're going to tender to the Independent National Electoral Commission headquarters in Abuja. And we're also going to go a step further to ensure that we write some other embassies to place embargo on those perpetrators of election and election-related violence. So the problem we have in Nigeria really is the willpower to arrest these perpetrators and then bring them to boot. That will serve as a major deterrent to intending perpetrators of such heinous crimes. So the problems we have identified very clearly. So as a way out, we are collating possible offenders of election-related violence. We have an inventory, we have a provision for it across all our observers scattered in the 16 local government areas that make up Ekiti State. Then we are going to integrate it in our report, and then we'll move forward from there.
Does it concern you that the peace accord, we had absent a major political party? Are you getting any vibes as to whether it is impacting fear of probably a disruption of proceedings?
Thank you. You see, one of the major political parties that did not put up appearance in the peace accord signing and the treaty, they might have a reason, they might have a cogent reason, and I believe probably by now the people who anchored the peace accord, Bishop Kuka and some other persons who articulated it, I think by now the political party must have tendered their reason for not being present there. But however, a large sum, the majority of the political parties were present there, and then the absence of one for us in terms of the analysis is almost insignificant. So, but all the same, it is well known now that there is a peace accord, that is still subsisting as far as this election is concerned. Then any political party that violates it, now I encourage the government and the law enforcement agents to arrest these persons, not just arresting them, ensuring that they are being brought before the law to face the consequences. And this is going to prevent those who actually intend or who actually are planning to perpetrate election-related violence in the general elections as we are going to witness in 2023.
All right, let's talk about the issue of voter education and voter enlightenment at this time. Of course, Ekiti people are seen as highly enlightened people academically. When it comes to voter education and how to conduct themselves, knowing what should happen after what and how they should go about the electioneering or election process, is totally a different thing altogether. You mentioned earlier how a driver was telling you he was ready to sell his vote to the highest bidder, and maybe was ready to get about 15,000 naira per vote. From your assessment, how aware or how educated is the average Ekiti voter towards this election?
Yes, the voter education of the Independent National Electoral Commission has done a very wide publicity, a lot of sensitization in terms of voter education on the conduct of the individuals, the citizens of Ekiti State. But, however, the issue of voter education should not be left in the hands of INEC alone. Civil society organizations like the Center for Credible Leadership and then even the politicians themselves have actually engaged in voter education in terms of ensuring, one, that the people vote right. You know, you could vote and your vote will be voided if you do not vote right. For instance, if you are placing a thumbprint on a ballot paper, you know, intending to vote for a particular political party, but your thumbprint is between one political party and the other, just in the middle, that vote automatically will be voided, you know, by the collation officers at the polling unit level. That's from EC8A level. So what we are saying is that the Center for Credible Leadership has done a lot of wide publicity in terms of voting, in terms of encouraging electorates not to sell their votes, in terms of rejecting or desisting from election-related violence, in terms of youth actually shunning thuggery, you know, trying to explain to the people that they are mortgaging their conscience, they are selling their rights, you know, just like a pot of pottage as enshrined in the Holy Book, you know. So we have done all this wide publicity, but it is now left for the electorate to also do some level of compliance for us to be able to take an assessment. We have a holistic and a very robust template for all this analysis. And immediately after the election, we're also going to address the press to say our findings as it affects this election.
But what's the, or should I just say or ask, that don't you get a sense of failure, so to speak, now when you look at one's role as a CSO, as a member of a CSO body? I know that you know, there's been a lot of work to enlighten voters, prospective voters out there on how important and precious their vote is and not to sell it. You've alluded to that, but some would also say there has not much has been done. If at all, maybe long enough or earlier, there should have been, you know, some more engagement with the public on against the ills of voter inducement.
Yes, like I did mention earlier, you see, going across the entire nooks and crannies of the state, we had to, you know, engage the traditional rulers, the town criers, the local government officials, you know, to be sure that these things are done, you know, and it trickles down to the polling unit level or the village level, you know, so that we'll be sure that the impact really, you know, is being felt across board. But I tell you something, the issue as it affects voter education shouldn't be just in the hands of INEC or civil society organizations. Political parties are also expected to also sensitize their people on the way to behave positively, the way to conduct themselves, you know, not to be in aberration with the provisions of electoral laws as it affects Nigeria. And like you know, ignorance of the law cannot be an excuse, you know. So we have done massive sensitization, but it is not uhuru. We believe that more could be done with the combined effort of the Independent National Electoral Commission, the civil society groups, and then even the political parties, the churches, the mosques, even the traditional faith believers. So that, I think, will make us get a more positive impact as it will affect positive compliance across board.
The observers elections, every election, tend to do a work that is probably significant. Do you think that you have actually made the difference year after year, election after election, in the outcome or even in our enlightenment about elections? Sometimes some people feel that you guys are just there to fulfill a job.
Which job? I want to ask you now, which job are you saying we are there to fulfill a job? Which job?
It's not my responsibility. It's yours to answer. Some people feel that you are there just
no.
Some people feel that. Some people feel that you guys are just there as NGOs to just do your jobs, and that you probably have no impact either in the enlightenment of the process, because election after election tend to be the same thing. You yourself, you have shown that inducement is on the way, and the tight security measures being put in place is because the rabble is always ready to explode, and so on. So some people are believing that maybe you guys NGOs are just there to fulfill all righteousness.
Well, thank you so much. Whoever believes that the civil society groups that are there to observe elections, that is the norm, even in the US, the UK, best practices across the globe. If the civil societies that are there to observe elections and make proper recommendations to ensure that the election management body keeps improving, I think such a person that believes we are just there to fulfill all righteousness is wallowing in his own level of ignorance. You see, after elections, we have a robust meeting with the hierarchy of INEC, ranging from the chairman, Professor Mahmoud, Yakubu, and then the national commissioners. And sometimes it trickles down to the resident electoral commissioners. All of them are assembled in Abuja, and we do have quarterly interactive sessions where we explore x-ray our experiences in election, x-ray our observations, and then INEC is now able, based on the brainstorming, INEC is now able to profile possible solutions to mitigate future occurrences of any vice noticed, in future elections. So I do not think that civil societies are just there. In fact, any election that has no election observation, or any election that does not have bodies that are properly accredited to observe that election, then that process is not, can never be credible, because we are not being paid by INEC. There is no remuneration whatsoever from the Independent National Electoral Commission. They do not pay the election observer units of civil society level. They do not remunerate us in any way or form. So the contract, we are purely independent, and we are doing our job in tandem with the requisite guidelines that governs the election processes.
Are you different from the media that also monitors the election?
Well, I cannot speak for the media, but directly what I'm saying is ours is purely analytical. We do not interfere in the processes of election. We observe election with a view to submitting our report for an improvement in subsequent elections. If we notice lacunas, in any election process, it will be highlighted, it will be properly analyzed. Then in our brainstorming with the Independent National Electoral Commission, we profile it. And then we now see how INEC and the civil society with other relevant agencies will prefer or profile a mitigation to prevent future occurrences. They will prefer solutions that will also help to improve future elections in Nigeria. You see, Nigeria is an evolving democratic nation, so we keep improving. We keep improving. No election process across the world, even in the US, no election is completely free and fair. It is not possible. You have one or two hitches here and there, and then in future elections, they will try to improve. So Nigeria is an evolving democratic nation, and then it is not yet Uhuru, but it is work in progress.
All right, Dr. Nwambu, for many elections in the past now, we often see delay in arrival of electoral materials or even electoral officials and so on, even after all the assurances are made that everything, logistics have been taken care of and so on. From your observation, it's just less than about 24 hours to the election. Are you seeing an improvement in that aspect of things where election officials and all of that will arrive at the right time with the voting commencing at the time it is set to commence?
Yes, like I told you yesterday, we observed the distribution of sensitive materials, across the 16 local government areas of Ekiti State yesterday, ranging from the release of the sensitive materials from the INEC headquarters here in Edo Ekiti to the respective local government areas. But I'm saying, really, that if you take a look at the process of the distribution from the state level to the local government to the RAC centers, and it's going to move onward to the polling unit level, this is an off-season election. And so far from what we have seen, it is evident that INEC has demonstrated capacity. It is evident that INEC has demonstrated competence in terms of the distribution of materials. So we do not envisage, a delay in terms of the time for resumption of election tomorrow. So we believe that INEC so far has performed creditably well. But like I said, it is not yet Uhuru, but we expect to see more positive impact by tomorrow.
Dr. Gabriel Nwambu, we thank you very much for your contributions on TVC Breakfast. We hope to speak with you again to share your assessment of the electoral process in Ekiti. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.